Let me tell you a story. I've been involved with Telos Animal Health for several years now because they developed a cleaning solution that wasn't caustic and wouldn't harm my vulnerable patients. I've literally placed amphibians on the product and they were unharmed. In medicine and hospitals, there are no non-toxic solutions used for cleaning until now. So anyway, because of my involvement with Telos, I occasionally get to review products and discuss problems and solutions. Recently, I'd received a care package full of Foley, urinary, and IV catheters and was asked to review them. One of my usual colleagues that I work with, we got to look at the products and we knew that we needed to try them, so we were just waiting for the right opportunity. A few weeks later, in early February, I got that phone call about a blocked Tom that she could not get catheterized, and as a veterinarian, I can tell you we've all had that moment. Unfortunately, I was covered in grease from working on a car, and I'd urged her to keep the kitty alive, and I would be there first thing in the morning. Abdominocentesis after abdominocentesis, cat is kept alive, IV catheters, cat's actually in pretty good spirits regardless. When I get there, we resedated kitty, and then she proceeds to try to catheterize him again with the pigtail catheter, and this was the 4 French. After several minutes of frustration, it's now my turn. You know how we veterinarians will sit there. I can't get this catheter in, IV or otherwise, and it's like tag. We do the tag team, and the next one tries. Anyway, during my struggle to pass the catheter, I realized that this kitty is a Hypospadius, and the distal urethra is too small and questionably patent. The midshaft urethral opening was still open, and with the use of this 4 French pigtail catheter, I was able to pass that catheter at a 90-degree angle into the new urethral opening and then down to through the lumen and save this cat's life. That's the first time I've ever been able to do something like that. That's just cool as hell. This catheter was reported to be the only urinary catheter that needed no suture anchoring. By the time I left the hospital, kitty was set up with urine collection line and bag, and the catheter was hanging in there nicely. Of course, I videotaped the entire process and went home to finish my gearhead duties and then review the video. I couldn't get the process out of my head, but felt like I was a hero for a few more hours. While reviewing the video, I noticed a few details that made the process easier than expected. For example, the catheter had a smooth closed end that protected the urethra from the stylet. The catheter had urine flowing mid-urethra with the stylet in place. The stylet was maneuvered within the catheter more times than I felt safe doing, and both the cat and the catheter survived. The catheter was stiffer going in and softer coming out. I mean, that's a lot of mysteries. Once I got home, I sent the video to Scott, praised the product for saving a cat's life. Scott then passes the praise to his colleagues, and within days, I'm asked to share this data with other veterinarians and was booked to help at the Western Veterinary Conference at the Telos Animal Health booth. 11 days later, I got to meet Cal, the engineer and principal human in charge. Cal doesn't speak much English, but Tal, our interpreter, who's now become a very close friend, was able to communicate Cal's ideas. Cal proceeded to tell me several things. For example, Cal specifically created these rubber formulations in these catheters to be stiffer at room temperature and softer at the average mammal's body temperatures, which he did for the comfort of the patients. I mean, who'd have thought of that? Cal informed me he's engineered the market's smallest Foley catheter, measuring in at 3.5 French, and that catheter is pretty well made. As if this wasn't enough of an accomplishment, he also re-engineered Foley catheters with a fail-free tip, in which if the tip's damaged, the catheter will not deflate due to 2 open lumens. The actual catheter tips are engineered with a softer tip than the catheter itself, which improves patient comfort. He also re-engineered the inflating apparatus valve without that fallible metal spring and with all those moving parts, and instead installed a silicone valve that is capable of maintaining higher pressures in a smaller package. I wasn't able to get this part between Chinese and English, but they showed me some pictures on the phone. I'll try to include these somewhere in this presentation. He also designed a catheter insert for those who don't have who use those catheter tip syringes or don't keep catheter tip syringes on hand with a lure lock and cover. This replaces the need for catheter tip syringes and the sacrifice syringe plungers that the average technician has to create to close the lumen. Cal then waves his hand across the whole table and with the help of Tal informs me that all these catheters have a non-kinking technology. The explanation is that these catheters have a luminal feature that keeps them patent even when tied in a knot, just like those air hoses used to deliver oxygen to patients. Then proceeds to tie a loose knot into a urinary catheter and push fluids through it. This in itself is just remarkable and explains the visualization of the urine flow even when this stylet was in place. I mean, how many normal Tomcat catheters have we ended up throwing away because it kinked, or we couldn't use them anymore because it kinked and didn't hold its shape? All right, he's cured that. Wow, it's awesome. Anyway, Cal then picks up a straight feline urinary catheter with stylet and shows me the 360-degree moving suture lock, which not only moves separate from the catheter, but also follows the animal to move with less friction. I mean, imagine those cats and dogs or cats specifically, that we have to suture those catheters in place. And a lot of times we get, as veterinarians, we're a little frustrated at how these animals still get out of these catheters. So we suture them in pretty tight. And we know that when they start waking up and moving their legs, that's going to be a pinch every time they move. There is a little guilt involved with that, but at the same time, we don't want that patient to lose his life over, its inability to take that pinch between its legs. He's fixed that. These catheters don't move while in there, but yet where it's sutured in does move separate from the catheter. Awesome. That's cool. Cal then shows me with the same catheter a thing they call the lick guard, which is separate and distal to the actual suture lock itself. It's a clear plastic guard that prevents those tiny feline spiny tongues from untying every surgeon's knot known to man. I don't care how many times I've tied it, how many knots I put in there. There's always that one cat's tongue that is like the Houdini of knots and can still get out of those catheters. So he actually has built a small circular device to keep that from being untied. Cal then shows me his secret catheter sauce, which is a sterile water activated lubricant that can go on all the catheters. Now, I only had like 1 or 2 catheters at the time that this was on, but he was actually testing out this new process or this new chemical that you put on there. In other words, when you pull the catheter out of the package, it is dry and feels like your normal catheter. When you put some sterile water on it, and I'm just recommending sterile water, we were just using the same bath of water over and over again for the exhibitions. But once that water touched it, this stuff became the best lube ever. As a matter of fact, the ongoing joke that weekend was that there was a porn convention there a week earlier, and that they needed this lube, for all these repeated applications because this stuff was awesome. A little bit of water, and she's back to normal. Anyway, Cal, with some more translation, then informs me that all the catheters are radio opaque. Wow, that's cool, which means you'll never have to guess where these catheters are or where they went. We can always spot them. I remember once we had a cat in with a urinary red urinary catheter, one of those long 3 French ones, and it turns out that we just could not, the cat had chewed it in half. We weren't sure if it was in the cat or out of the cat. So I ended up doing an IVP and multimedia studies to make sure that it wasn't in there. And had I used one of his catheters, a simple x-ray would have been all it took. Anyway, Cal then presents his laryngeal mask, much like the lagomorph laryngeal masks, but these actually have a reusable and an inflatable cuff. That part in itself is pretty freaking awesome, and to me, just super impressive. I once tried to use the other lagomorph masks, and they kind of stuck to the wrong spot, and ended up removing one pretty quickly. And at that point in time, I had to then wake the animal up very quickly just to make sure it was going to make it. Cal then probably picks up his spinning IV line adapter that can fit any standard IV line and can safely treat that spinning animal in a small cage. As best as could be translated, I was informed that the hospital would burn down before this IV line would break. Cal even developed a series of small animal urine collection bags that can be strapped to the patient. Now, I do a lot of wildlife, and I do a lot of crazy patients that just like to spin and that type of thing. I can't see most of that urine collection bag actually surviving, but still, that is a lot of innovation, a lot of thought going into those catheters. And if we had that one cat that can walk around with his own collection bag, that would be an improvement in medicine altogether. Cal even developed a catheter with a temperature sensor for deep tissue monitoring. Now, I can't think of any obvious reasons I could use that at this point in time, but I'm sure there's some research project that needs to know the bladder temperature of wherever this catheter is, and that you can put that on a urinary catheter or put that on a Foley catheter. Either way, this is some really cool technology. Upon arrival to Las Vegas, I was already impressed with just the one product, but after talking with Cal, I was intensely aware that I was witnessing more innovations in one day with one man than I'd witnessed in over 27 years of veterinary medicine. I'm sure I've missed a few of the innovations and the things that he's told me. Again, there was some translation issues there, and I would like to spend more time with Tal, and there are some regrets there. But anyway, I just want Cal and Tal to know that my congratulations are in order. You guys have put together some products that have truly will innovate the veterinary market and how veterinary patients are treated. Right now, just knowing how I can use them in more species than they've been previously used. The 3.5 French can be used for feeding tubes for small turtles. Some of my patients, believe it or not, are 10 to 20 grams, if not even smaller. And these particular catheters, being small enough, can actually go in and do things another catheter and no other equipment's been able to do. I can't tell you how many times I've had to, bastardize an IV line or find some smaller piece of tubing somewhere to do something. And now I'm getting these products that come to me sterile. They can come pre-lubed. There's more technology in them, than I've seen in 27 years. So anyway, I want Cal to know, and I want Tal to know that is a lot of innovation, and congratulations are definitely in order. So again, thank you guys for all that you've done, and let's save some more patients. Thank you.